There. All right. All right, roll call. Chair Marie Hoda.
Here.
Vice Chair Andy Sakaris.
Here.
Maggie Burns.
Present.
Scott Gilbert.
Here.
Absent, we have Edie Hughes, Gina Oberding,
Present.
Dina Phelps.
Here.
Chris Ray.
Here.
Amy Wilson.
Here.
City Council Liaison Chelsea Noonenkamp.
Present.
Inglewood School Liaison Dwayne Tucker.
Present.
And excuse, we have Library and Cultural Arts Manager Bethany Lafferty. Staff, we have Director Christina Underhill, Patron Experience Librarian Carrie Watson, and we have Hannah Kine, Kinney, and Rachel Steen. All right. All right, we're all set.
All right. I move to approve the minutes. I'll second it.
And Maggie?
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, perfect. Do we have any public comment?
We do not.
Okay. Then we will move on to report. Statistical report first.
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I think I know most of you.
Sorry.
I'm Carrie Watson, Patron Experience.
The library will close in 25 minutes. The public computers will shut down in 15 minutes. The restrooms will close in 10 minutes. Thank you.
So just to go over the statistical report, which hopefully you all have in front of you. A few things to highlight. We were closed 3 days during this month, for Labor Day and then a staff and service day. Social media, everything looks about the same. Instagram has seen an increase. Meeting room, study room, same. Libby Overdrive continuing to increase. Volunteers, we have 17 adult volunteers, which includes several of our board members, for a total of 73 volunteer hours. A lot of that had to do with the used book sale, which we'll get to. Programs, the children's team is back to their regularly scheduled programs for the fall. The September teens after hours program was rescheduled. So there will be 2 instead in October. It turns out it coincided with homecoming at high school, so we moved it off. And then if y'all have any questions about the incidents, I can go over that. Oh, the other thing I was gonna mention, patrons registered. I know those numbers are trending downward. Just remember, and it's me doing all the purging of expired accounts. We're trying to really do a cleanup of our expired patrons. For instance, there's still thousands of patrons on there that have been expired for over a year, and I just can't clear them from the system for various reasons. So it's kind of a slow work to get it to actually accurately reflect who is using the library. So I know these are looking way lower, but it's just because we're trying to be very honest and transparent with how many people are actually using the library. So.
What were the 2 exclusions? This is last.
Yeah, so the 2 exclusions, one was a fairly serious incident. We had a patron come on the weekend who was already excluded previously. And he came back and, we had to call the police. He made some threats, intimidation again. The police got him to leave, but then he came back to the other side of the building through the window.
Yeah, that's the one.
So that was the main kind of incident. And then the other one, was somebody the same day, unfortunately, was doing drugs at the back.
Is your rock thrower, has he been back since then?
He is not, no, he's been abiding by the. I believe though that he was charged and he did not show up for his court date. So I believe there is a standing warrant for his arrest.
There was one thing with, Oh, the page views on the catalog from a year ago. Do you have any insights?
Yeah, so that's actually a good question as well. We've been working with Lucia to transfer, the way we collect data from our page views. Something quit, like something with Google Analytics, like stopped and they're changing it. And so we're having to institute a new system to collect page views. So the numbers are probably gonna be very different from what they've previously been,
Okay.
just because they're being collected differently. And I'm not sure how the various, analytics collect them.
Sure.
And so, but I have a feeling it's going to look dramatically different just because of that.
Yeah, because I couldn't figure how you'd wind up.
No, I did.
33%.
That is a very big question.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
I think those Saturday incidents happened right before our last meeting.
Yeah.
How's the staff doing? How's that? I haven't rattled a lot.
Yeah, I think it definitely did rattle. We had a meeting, with library staff, facility staff, and the police department to kind of do some data collection and kind of make a plan forward. I think that was encouraging, and we've been trying to just pass along to staff, what's going on behind the scenes. I know there's just been some different people in charge of like the Allied contract that have previously been in charge. And so just kind of getting all of that coordinated, just so that everybody's on the same page with how to handle security incidents. And then we are kind of making some staffing level changes that we'll kind of go over later. But I think there are still staff who are rattled, they're just trying to figure out. And I think we're trying to be very transparent about what we are trying to do to make it not just feel safer, but actually be safer.
Have you been satisfied with the security guards that we have?
I think, when we are able to have a consistent presence from the security guards who really know, the patrons and are willing to invest their time and energy getting to know the people in the community who come into the library, I think we've seen that make huge strides in a positive direction towards relationship building. So I think that's the part that's been the most encouraging, is when we do have the same people over and
Do that
over.
most of the time?
Most of the time, there are a few shifts that are more rotating. And so then we're less familiar with them, they're less familiar with us, they're less familiar with the community. And then sometimes it feels like maybe there's more communication issues. But it feels like there's enough consistent presence of some guards that kind of helps just with the communication piece. And then we're working with, facilities and public works is who's over the Allied contract, and we're trying to just work on communicating well with them about what we would like to see from the security, just so that it's a good working relationship with them. Anything else? Okay, move to the action plan. All right, so the action plan, everybody has a copy of that, right? Yeah, so number one, September, the used book sale, which the used book sale was a big success, I think, for the first one. I think two, we learned a lot and just how to do it better for next time. We got so many books. And I think that we were very not expecting the volume of books we received, and if all of y'all who helped, y'all all back to the book, which we still have so many left that we have decided to keep a standing sale. And we had a bunch of empty shelves at the front that now we have filled with used books, children's, young adult fiction and nonfiction for adults. And so we're kind of keeping it open as a standing sale, which is really exciting. And I mean, every day that I've worked on the desk, we've had at least 1 or 2 sales there. So we're continuing to track that as used book proceeds. And I think it says in here, our total proceeds from the sale were just over $3,000. And we're using that for a direct funding of the summer reading program. Sorry, that was it. The next one, the next action item being implementing cultural art passes and then just in general, the non-traditional item lending program. So Hannah and I have actually been working on that. The Kit Keepers reservation system is fully operational. We've had 26 requests placed, in September. Still working on exactly how we're gonna gather and use the data that we are able to collect from that. We have started promoting the use of the new system. We're trying to figure out, because this is targeting our patrons specifically and them checking out book club kits, and only our patrons can check them out. We're also including surveys in the kits and then keeping surveys around the library to see what kind of kits our actual book club users want. So we're trying to use that data as well. And then we're currently working on inventorying a bunch of board games that we have had kind of stashed in the back, and we're trying to get those ready to be put into circulation. We have a date goal of November 1. They're all inventoried and they basically just have to be added to our behind the scenes Sierra, like our ILS system. And then we'll start promoting those to the public as well. So we're really excited about that. In terms of our partnership with the schools, there's no real news and updates on that. We're still kind of waiting to hear, from our various reps, on getting Sora, implemented by Overdrive, which that's kind of the kid-friendly version of Overdrive. The children's team has restarted their outreach into the preschools and the middle schools, and Leadership Academy with schools starting back. And then the preschool outreach in general, looks like we'll restart in November. I don't know as much about kids, I don't think. And staff development, as we continue, I'm sure Beth continues to say, we are very grateful for the in-service days that y'all approved last year. We had one in September. It was very productive. We had high staff turnout for the event, which is always a big deal because our staff is part-time. Some people have to adjust their schedules to show up on a Friday. So we did a lot that day, which was really cool. And then we're continuing to work on converting some part-time positions into full-time positions that will be able to get underway for the 2024 budget year. And then lastly, marketing. September was library card sign-up month. We did a lot of social media promotion with that. And then we are kind of relaunched our social media team within the library. That includes a lot of new features, including staff recommendations on Mondays, other special monthly features such as National Video Game Day, various program recaps. And then we're already seeing an increase in our Instagram views, so hopefully that will.
The library will close in 15 minutes. Please bring your items to circulation for checkout at this time. The public restrooms are now closed for the evening. Public computers will shut down in 5 minutes. Please save or print your work now.
Are you also working with the PTAs as well as the schools? How does that sort of interaction work with the PTA groups?
That I do not know as much because I'm not on the children's team. I'm not sure what kind of work that they're doing.
I know that, Kimberly, so only the elementary schools have PTAs.
Okay.
But Kimberly came to our carnival at Clayton last year and she's already scheduled out for that. So I think that she's open as long as there's availability to help with events.
And just a comment, I really enjoyed the used book sale. I thought your
Yeah,
team did an awesome job. Dean and I volunteered together, so we got to meet some community members and I really appreciated just meeting community members for one. Two, I thought you had two really super knowledgeable staff at the checkout station, and that wasn't these lovely ladies back here, but they helped answer some questions, and I really thought that was an opportunity as well to kind of provide like another service.
Yeah.
And then for next year, and I know that you're thinking about I talked with Beth and she said something about hosting this during the weekday,
Mhm.
which is fine.
Yeah,
But I would also suggest maybe thinking about having it in kind of parallel to like the Inglewood Market or something where there's already gonna be an event in and around this area. And then people would be here and then maybe you would get some new, customers.
yeah, yeah, we
So
did.
I'm sure you're thinking about those
Yeah.
things, but just a suggestion.
No, that's a really good idea. It was really interesting because Friday was definitely our biggest turnout day,
Mhm.
which we really anticipated it being Saturday. But I think just because there's not as much stuff happening in that area on a Saturday, there's just not, people would have to so intentionally
Yeah.
come to the book sale. Whereas as Friday, there's already so much kind of traffic in that area that it was definitely our largest.
Yeah.
sale
Ton of
day.
city employees,
Yeah,
right?
tons of city employees there on Friday and all throughout the day, Thursday.
And anyone who's looking to get the gift stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have multiple patrons, who came each day of the used book sale and now each time they come in, I mean, we were talking to a gentleman tonight that he scans all the shelves every time.
Oh,
he
is it
comes
Tom?
in. No, yeah.
I went down to Rexham and then I saw Tom at the used book sale. Now we're buddies. Community.
Every community that we have in there.
You should hire him. He knows everything about,
So,
well, he book written probably before 1901.
that's- Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So, yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Right. We have no money left on our budget for the board, so we'll revisit that in January. Move on to new business with the minimum staffing level.
Okay. So the minimum staffing level, and this is something we, our Beth is more coordinated with Christina and the kind of plan that they drew up. And then now we're kind of wanting to present it to you in a more formal fashion, to kind of have your stamp approval in whatever way that looks like. So that we can then kind of present it to council as well and say our library board has approved this. So I'll kind of tell you our plan and then Christina will probably be better suited to answer questions about it. It's kind of like a minimum staffing level plan. So as you know, we've been dealing repeatedly with, full staff issues and then lots of staff turnover. And then, which puts us even in a worse spot when people leave for whatever reasons, and then anybody calls out sick or anybody goes on vacation, we're just put in a really dire spot. So the new kind of minimum staffing level plan is kind of covering what staffing levels we would need to keep the library doors open. And if it falls below a certain threshold, the process that we'd go through to close the library, because it would be considered unsafe staffing levels. So the plan that's being set forth is if it's a time period of 3 hours or less, which this would include kind of the mornings when we first open, before kind of a midday shift comes in. And then after 5, when we kind of have the evening crew, and then, those would be kind of the main time frames that we would be thinking of as 3 hours or less. That there would need to be at least 4 staff members present, and that would include one person to be the person in charge. So we have, various supervisors and other librarians who can be an eligible pick. And then that would be also include one person one staff member to cover library security. And so that would be if it's just for a chunk of time of 3 hours or less. So then in general, if it's a 5-hour or more time frame, so that would include any other time during a regular workday. And then Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, because those are kind of days where we just have one set of people coming in. There's no like overlap of different shifts. Then there would need to be 5 staff members present, one being an eligible PIC, and then 1 staff member who could cover library security. So
I'm sorry, and that's altogether 5.
that's right. Yeah, altogether 5. So if I'm opening the library on Monday, only 3 people show up, then this would be kind of like the next steps of what we would go through, to close the library. or delay an opening. So if the available staff falls below the minimum requirement, whoever is the librarian in charge, the person in charge would notify the library manager of the situation. The library manager would then notify the PRLG director to confirm the situation and the decision to close early or delay opening. The PRLG director would then notify the city manager. The library manager would notify city communications department and prepare signage, website, and social media announcements. The library manager would then notify all impacted staff of any changes. And then we would either delay opening or close early based on those impacts. In general, I'll go ahead and mention too, during these past couple of weeks, we've already kind of tried to preemptively put this in place, and we've had to operate at these kind of very minimum staff levels. Just because, as I'm sure y'all know, we have 3 vacant positions right now. And that means if anybody calls out, we're pretty much strapped immediately. And there's certain days of the week that are more impacted than others. But we are in the process of hiring a part-time staff member and then of course converting some of our part-time to full-time staff. But we've already kind of had to loosely implement staffing levels.
What days are more impacted?
So, Mondays right now are extremely impacted, and then the weekends, Saturday and Sunday should be probably the worst.
This would be closed to patrons, right? Like everyone who shows up will still be working in the library. Okay,
As far as I understand, or I don't know.
It may just be closed for the day.
okay, okay.
But we haven't breached that conversation. It was more of safety was the number one concern of, when the staff are here, there's breaks, there's lunches that have to be covered. And so this is the bare minimum for staffing to stay open safely.
Just curious. Because like my concern is always that
Yeah.
staff are losing their hours, so
Sure.
if it's closed for whatever reason, but the staff still.
Yeah, there's tons of projects always. So
Okay,
if staff wanted to stay, especially part-time and get hours, we
Yeah.
have projects they can work on.
okay,
Full-time staff would be a different situation. They may hang out and just catch up on work.
Right.
So, yeah.
right, okay. And, so that would be also, like, I'm just wondering if, like, you go to curbside or would any.
Definitely I can talk about that. We'll talk about it with staff too
Yeah.
and see. Because Allied is scheduled to be here on the weekends and they're here on
Yeah.
Mondays. During the week, it's a little easier for coverage because we have more staff in the building, so it doesn't feel as weird as like a weekend when the building's vacant
Yeah,
and all that's here is library.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's gonna be scenarios that are gonna come up as we go through this, but at this point, yeah, if you guys, obviously, if you have more questions, but if this sounds okay to you all.
Well, I assume the goal is to maintain predictable schedule.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Is there a plan? It sounds like the issue that is not enough staff. Will there be
The
a,
library will close in 15 minutes. Please finish your work and head toward the exit. Thanks for visiting.
will there be a request in the coming budget year for more staffing so that we can keep predictable hours, 7 days a week?
Well, so council did approve 2 full-time positions. Yeah, so those 2 are what we're getting in 2024, and those will be 40-hour positions, which will make a big difference. Just adding these 2 on the back has made a huge difference to our staffing levels because of full-time staff. Like recently, what we're running into is people are out sick with flu, COVID, you name it, they're out sick. And those are the times you can't predict it because they're calling out the morning of.
Yeah.
And now we're in this situation with, wait, how many people do we actually have Monday? We were short again with staff.
Right.
So I came down and covered security so we could be open. And it's hit and miss. I mean, we could go many days without any incidents, without any problems, any issues coming in. And then there's that one day that's three times on a Saturday.
And we kind of have guidelines in place, for approving PTO, like certain numbers of people will approve PTO for. But it feels like recently, there's been kind of perfect storms, but the vacancies right now are what are also causing the additional strain and why we're trying to get that, remedied.
And we did, one of the positions for 2024 is actually going to be filled this year because we have had vacancies this whole year. We have vacancy savings. So we can fund one of the full-time positions through the end of the year. And then the other full-time will start at first in January. So I think the position is currently posted.
I don't know,
I think it's posted internally only. Yeah, so because we have some great internal candidates that may be interested in a full-time position and we'd love to keep them. So
Could we keep our official hours the same for this?
the hours.
I mean, the official, like our official hours that we shoot to stay. open.
Yeah, that's the goal for right now. One thing that Beth and I have discussed is looking at service hours overall. You know, and how does that look? The Sundays keeps coming up as one of the days that we're most challenged with staffing. And so nothing's really been talked about just yet. Our goal is to keep normal hours with the staffing levels we have. This is just worst case scenario if we have 5 people out sick, you know, and there should have been 7 here.
Certainly, and I believe me, I'm all pro staff safety.
Yeah.
I'm not pro anti-safety or whatever.
Yeah.
Chelsea, did you have something?
Chelsea, question or
I
comment?
do, I have a question. Obviously, understanding the multiplying toll that vacancies are taking right now on the staff. And we obviously just moved to the part-timers to the full-timers, 4 to the 2. What other efforts are you guys doing, if any, to think about retention and to reduce vacancies overall besides the move from part-time to full-time?
Yeah, so currently we've got the comp and class study that should be wrapping up here very shortly. That may impact some of it from a retention standpoint. One conversation I'll just mention, because it's come up now, I've been here 3 years and every year it's been discussed and it's gotten higher and higher each time, but health insurance for our part-time staff. And talking to some of them, we had a focus group last year that talked about that, and the part-time staff that were participating in that, one of them is still with us. But that was like the number one thing. If I could get health insurance, because right now we have some part-time staff because of Medicare, Medicaid, they can't work over a certain number of hours or their salary can't reach the threshold. And so they can only work 15 hours a week for us because maybe they have another part-time job somewhere else. So that's been a big challenge and something that has been discussed with Sean Weisky, our HR director, and city manager's office of like, is this an option? Is there an option to buy into healthcare? Because going out on the marketplace is always a challenge and you can get dropped at, the drop of a hat. And so I think that's part of the stress, and a lot of our part-time staff, many have left for full-time positions, which is wonderful and we're happy for them. We wish it could be with us. In fact, we just lost one part-timer that we absolutely loved. It was wonderful to a full-time position, even with these full-time positions coming online here shortly. So that's been the challenge. I think health insurance could somewhat help with retention if that could be an option in our future.
Helpful, thanks.
The library and civic center are now closed. Please exit the building. It will reopen tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Thank you.
I have 2 comments. One, I think we should look at the operational hours. I am highly concerned of us doing these, surprise, we're closed things. Like, I think we are just getting back to a point of normalcy, and like, I'm a city employee in Denver, like I get sort of the staffing issues in governments, like I fully get it. I am really against us doing these sort of like, surprise, we're half days, like I think that is a huge disservice to the people we serve. I would rather us say, we're opening at noon on Mondays, like, and just sort of curtailing the hours until we can get this figured out, because it has taken us, and I've heard this at the bookstore, I never know when you're open, you're closed for these days, like, it is a big problem with our hours as it is, because they've changed through COVID, then they're not, then they're COVID, then they're not. And I would strongly encourage the staff to go back and be like, what is the traffic from open until 1 p.m. on Mondays? If it's not worth opening, let's just change the hours until we get this figured out. I am really against this from a serving the patron standpoint. I am 100% for it for the staff, but we have to figure out a different solution than just, well, we posted on Facebook and you drove all the way down here, like it's just gonna turn our patrons off. And so, like, I would rather, and be much more in favor of us just saying like, come back to us with saying like, we're not gonna be open on Mondays or on Sundays until we can figure this out. Than us just sort of doing these surprise closures, especially in the school season and study rooms. And so, like, I am pretty against this idea from human standpoint. Like, I want you all to be safe, and like, I would never want you to be in a situation where you feel unsafe or if there's not enough staff. But we have to figure out a different solution than just sort of pop up closures. It was all sort of.
I wholeheartedly agree, and I know I mentioned last time, like, if it were being open on Sundays, and I think that there's a problem, which is that council really wanted 7 days a week, but it just really does not feel sustainable at this point, and like, again, I'm fully in favor of this for safety, but this can't be all.
No, and we agree with that. And that's, the next step to this is the data collection that has already been going on.
Okay.
Of looking that we do hour counts, in the library to see, you know, what are the peak hours when we have a lot of people. And a lot of times it's just story time, when we have the most people in here. And the other times it just really varies, but also, you know, the door counter helps us too. So that's something Beth is digging in. I think Carrie's helping her out with that as well, just to see, is there a trend? And looking at other libraries too, of when are they open, when are they closed? I think all libraries in the state of Colorado were closed on Monday.
Yeah.
For Columbus Day, Indigenous People Day.
Yeah.
And we were the one library that was open. So we actually had quite a bit of traffic from people coming in from other library districts, wanting to read the paper or look at something that they normally look at their regular library. So that's more to come too. It's definitely being discussed and looked at. We just don't have enough data right this second. This is kind of this is the emergency situation of come this weekend, 3 people call out sick. And I've only got 3 people in the library for the whole day. Could be a big problem, so.
I asked for the last meeting, so I'm glad that it came about, but.
Yeah, this
And
is.
it's a staffing situation, like you said, when you can pre-plan people working certain days, then it's way easier because then you're not wasting, you know, 6 staff members on a day where only 20 people show up to use the library. And you can reallocate those staff on other days of the week where there is actual higher library traffic.
Is there any option to use volunteers in some capacity to help? So say there's planned vacation, right? And we know that someone's gonna be out on vacation for a whole week. And, you know, your busier days are Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays or something. Would there be an option to even have a volunteer cover some aspect of the work during a more heavily trafficked time, so that doesn't impact other staff who are trying to get their projects done and that kind of thing? I don't even know if that's an option based on the fact that I know that volunteers need some training and and there's other things. I get that, but just kind of wondering.
I think volunteers have been a huge help when it comes to shelving duties,
Yeah.
especially on weeks where we have those consistent days, for those consistent volunteers. Then other staff are almost having to do 0 shelving. And so I think those are huge wins for us. The problem comes with anything that includes patron data. And when it comes to patron privacy, then that's kind of where volunteers kind of have to stop. And so anything that's kind of at the desk in patron interaction, we have not used volunteer help for, and kind of for those reasons to protect patron privacy, which is something that's protected by Colorado state law. And so it's not even just us arbitrarily making those decisions. So the volunteers are a huge help.
Yeah.
I see the business folks being like, oh, good volunteers.
Yeah,
But they're not kind of governed by the same legal
Yes,
regulations.
right.
We have brought recreation staff over. They've been trained
Yeah.
and they've been helping recently. So we're utilizing
Trying
other
to
staffing
utilize our
areas.
City staff that are kind of less busy right now. Yeah.
You know, I gotta say, what Andy said really resonated with me, because I also hear that, and the notion, and I kind of wish more would be recorded, but frankly, the notion that comms would jump right on it, get word out to everybody and stuff, seems wildly optimistic to me. I just don't see it. I think we would just end up angering people, alienating people. And, I hope we can work on a staffing plan, keep us 7 days. If not, I hope we can bring in the public on this. I have talked, I mean, unsurprisingly, probably tell I'm pretty sociable. I've talked to a lot of people about discussion about Sundays, and everybody's like, oh, hell, no. Everybody I've talked to is like, no, I work during the week. I want to know that I can go to my library on Sundays, right? And I think we need to bring the public in instead of.
Yeah. That'll be part of this process. This,
And you know, when I say bring the public in, I've seen the city again and again take this approach where we'll do poll cup, or we'll reach out and ask and have require people to do something active. And, you know, I work in the business of communicating with the public, and the public sucks at communication. What you need to do is like reach out to all kinds of social media and look at the comments. People will not DM. They won't check, they won't do anything other than comment.
sure.
And
I think, well, part of what you said though is I want to know that my library is open, but are they actually using it? The numbers are not quite saying that they are from what Beth said last month,
You know,
so that's the thing.
there's something to that, but on the other hand, and at the risk of sounding like Grandpa Geezer who's lived here forever, which I am. But like, I think there's a sense that the quality of life in Englewood is slipping, and the things people count on are just less and less there. And like my voice tonight. And I just would hesitate to take that away. I mean, it's true, maybe I only come down here 4 Sundays a year, but those are, you know, when I do, I like it, right?
Well, we do have our library patron database that we can reach out to get specific people that actually use the library to find out from them directly. The recreation team is actually putting in a survey in the next guide. Very curious to see how this goes. It's going to be a QR code. If that's successful and we actually get response, we'll also implement that as part of the library survey to find out, you know, how people use our library here. And what they would use if, you know, what are we not offering?
Right,
too?
but I mean, you get a skew between people who actively do something, that the great majority of people
Right.
will not do much active, you know.
Sure.
outreach.
It's hard to get that. The last library system I was overseeing, it took us a 2-year study to get truly what the hours would be for 2 libraries. And one library was closed on Saturdays and the other one was closed on Sundays. We can't do that here because we only have 1 library. But in looking at other cities, Littleton, Denver, the libraries are all over the place. Most are not open 7 days a week. Some are, and they're coming out of library. I think, didn't we just invest in Denver $30 million into libraries?
Yes, 72 million, yeah.
72.
It's just a small.
Yeah. We're small. I mean, we felt the pinch on Monday when everybody else was closed, you know, so.
I mean, to me, just my personal take, I think Monday's a more natural day to close. That's when museums often close, galleries and stuff, yeah.
And that could be an option, yeah.
Yeah, whatever we do, I just want it to be consistent for a significant amount of time.
Agree.
Because I think we erred in this sort of like, we're gonna be part-time open this period, and then we lost folks to the bathroom remodel, and so, you know, the big staff comes first, right? Like all in, all done, but I would be very hesitant if this was like a once a month, you know, every 2 weeks, right? Like, and I am hourly employees, I get it, like, you know, you don't know when they're calling in sick. But I would just be very hesitant if this becomes more than once a month type of thing, which I just had COVID and it was the worst COVID I've had it 3 times. It's going around, right? Like the plagues are going around, especially where the young people are. And so, I get it, but we have fought so hard to get back to a schedule. And it's just been all over the place, and that is concerning.
It is. I feel like we're on the right track now, finally. I mean, COVID was one thing. We're still dealing with that, but not like what it was
Right.
before. And then our remediation of the restrooms and the library overall, yeah, that we've hit some bumps in the road for sure. I think we're in stride now. The support from our city council with getting full-time positions, that's definitely the trend we want to keep moving towards is more full-time because of the retention. Our full-time people haven't left.
Yeah.
They're still here. It's over a year now and they're still here. So that says something. Whereas our part-time, I don't think from January to today, we have the same, maybe one or two. But
That's still 40 back.
so that's telling too. I mean, when you look overall, so we're heading in a positive direction. What we're proposing tonight is emergency to get us through the end of the year. The hope is to hire one full-time and fill the part-time positions quickly. We offered one part-time and they turned it down and now we're back to the drawing board. So we're just kind of bumping along, but definitely hitting a positive stride for long-term for this library. So still a lot to look at and a lot to figure out, but Beth, Carrie, and the whole library team has been doing a really good job of dissecting things to make this library work for our patrons.
For the sake of time, I think we need to make a decision. It's the ask that we basically endorse this policy.
If you guys are for it for now, this is not a permanent thing. This is hopefully very temporary to get us through the end of the year.
Yeah, I think that it should be like, hopefully we don't use it,
That's the hope.
but,
Yeah.
but like, I think it should be a longstanding safety.
It's supposed to be more like a break loss in case of emergency.
Yeah. I'm gonna get-
Isn't that the book you were reading at Charles Day last night?
Oh, I.
That was it.
Yeah. On a sick day for Amos McGee. Very cute.
All right,
Well, I heard two different things. One person said to get us through the end of the year, and he said, definitely, so I think we need to.
Indefinitely until we have another plan.
yeah, I think that this plan is a safety plan that needs to be there. We just don't want to use it.
But right,
Like-
that's not the goal.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'll make a motion to endorse this policy.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? All right. Andy,
Alrighty, it's been a couple months coming. Sorry, I was not at the last meeting, but I wanted to talk about our schedule. Both in terms of supporting and not keeping staff here late as we're talking about staffing. And also I think looking at a number of the boards and commissions, I personally feel like this is a very late meeting for both the public and the members. And I wanted to sort of put it out to the members about potentially moving the meeting up significantly to like 5 or 5:30 or even 6. I would like us to be done by the time the library closes. And so we're not keeping folks here after the library's closure. But I know that there's a lot of people that do a lot of things and I don't want to just throw someone out and be like, well, you have to be here at this certain time. But I personally feel the fact that it's after a study session, there's only a few commissions that are this late, one of which is planning and zoning, and that one is its own thing, as the people are piling out of their cars for that today. But, you know, I would sort of like to request we look at moving the meeting up an hour or more, and just sort of wanted to put it out there to folks, to make sure it doesn't harm people's personal lives. But, you know, I feel like getting home from work, sitting for an hour and a half and then coming here, I'm not at my freshest, and also keeping staff here that are expected to be here at 8 until 7:30 seems not in lieu of the spirit of what we just voted on about sort of staff safety and support. So just sort of wanted to put that out there. The majority of boards and commissions are between 5 and 6, that's when their start times are. And so just sort of wanted to put that out there and hear people's thoughts and sort of make sure I'm not sort of throwing a hand grenade into the life of the meeting, but I feel it is too late personally.
I certainly would not be able to move it any sooner than 6:30 on the second Tuesday of the month.
Yeah, that's.
If we could move weeks, I don't know, if that's an option, but. What
Is that the reason that some of the library people do it after maybe because it's after, like if we had it earlier, would that limit? Or not the time?
Would it limit their ability to attend or?
Yeah, because we'd be like, basically, maybe we should be on the floor.
I think that like, for instance, all the staff members who are scheduled to work tonight. when They're done. Because the meeting starts at 7 and then it usually goes towards 8. There's like, people are done at 7:30 and they don't, people who would want to come would come in after. I don't think staff are being prevented from coming from the time. But there are staff who are staying later.
But if it's earlier, would they wouldn't be able to.
I don't, I still don't think it would draw any more staff to attend, no matter the time, honestly.
I support earlier, for sure.
I would do 5:30.
I don't like 5.
Are we allowed to move the day of the meeting or is that a charter change?
The charter pretty much states that the library board shall convene at least once in each calendar month. That does not state it has to be on the second Tuesday of the month.
Yeah, like, could we do the third week?
I'm like moving the day.
Yeah.
The day is less important.
My school's PTO meeting.
That's why I wanted to bring it up, because I didn't want to just be like, surprise, it's moving.
But I also don't want to be the only one making this decision, but.
I would support not the second Tuesday, because I
Okay.
generally have a meeting from 4:30 to 6.
Okay.
So, to move it up would not be favorable for me, but I like the idea of moving it to some other, for a lot of reasons, but yeah.
Is there a preference if you wanted to move it to the first Tuesday of the month or the third Tuesday?
So just for reference point, school board meetings are the first and third Tuesdays
Oh, so no,
of every month. So
okay.
either you take us out of the charter. Or
I would also be hesitant to do it on full council, the day
I
after
was gonna
full council
bring
meetings.
Chelsea's
Because
calendar as well.
as someone who's have to staff those, and sometimes they go to like 2 a.m. and then expecting our staff to be here at 8 and then stay till 7 p.m. I think is tough. I think what makes maybe next step sense is to send out a doodle poll of what days work for folks to see if we can get a consensus.
Especially
Yeah.
as benefits of hearing.
Right. But I just wanted to sort of start the process. I don't expect a vote tonight by any stretch, but I think sort of next steps is either staff or I can send out sort of a doodle poll of days that are like no-goes for folks.
We'll research all the other meetings that go on in the city, knowing that the library or the school board meets first and third Tuesdays, and then send out some options.
Do we have a little rough time that works best for?
Especially approaching winter and getting, I think 6 sounds the safest as far as.
I could do 6. I mean, problem is, I would really have, I probably couldn't get here for a 5:30. Even 6 would be like, tell my, boss, like, hey, 5, you know.
Well, how about we do a 6 and a 6:30 option as part of the doodle poll, once we figure out what days may work better. And then we'll see what the results are.
6:30 on the second Tuesday.
4 o'clock on Friday.
You're gonna have to just-
No, I'm not.
Because our next suggestion is gonna be an alternate location.
We can start this and.
Library.
Please bring a book. It'll be fine. Very disappointing.
When we get the new reporters
We
from
have
other
to get
parts of the country, I tell them this is Colorado, nobody wants to vote.
Okay, yeah.
The only other thing is I did want everyone to be aware of the ruling today about the court saying that requesters of book removal do not need to be disclosed to the public. So just sort of whoever, I know that was a discussion.
That was, yeah, we'll
That was-
get back with our legal team and, because ours said you had to provide your name and everything. We'll see what actually has to be provided, but we may not, we don't have to disclose it to the public or media, so I think what we're doing is fine.
It still requires them to give a name.
got it, okay. So probably what our process is just fine,
That's
knowing
not
that,
horrible.
yep, perfect. Good update.
Okay. Wanna add?
Think that I probably highlighted everything from it. Just once again, we'll keep the standing book sale. We've already made one social media announcement about the standing used book sale. And then we will Okay, we're gonna include information about it in the library ledger, which that is something I think I was supposed to mention earlier, that we're gonna start doing the monthly newsletter again via email, and we have a team working on that. And the youth book sale will be one of those things I like to go get that.
Thanks to all the board members who did make time to shop and or show up. We
Yeah,
appreciate you.
much fun.
I think most of us left
Our
with
library
more
staff
books than we
thanks
donated.
you too, because it meant less.
We'll see them next year. The
You
donation.
will be back.
Daughter. All right, staff's choice.
Yes. Our children's librarian was just awarded, Clell Library.
Colorado Early Literary something.
Yeah.
That's not the right words, but.
So that was a national.
No, that was just
Colorado
the,
State But.
but
But.
she has been nominated for I Love My Library.
Yeah, I love my library.
Library, yeah, and that's a national.
Page document that was
It's,
put together. Full of.
we may share that with you as, we'll send it out. We may not put it in the agenda, but see y'all. She has, it was sent to her, so she is aware, because I think when you do submit, it gets sent to that
Yeah, yeah.
librarian as well. So this will be a big deal. We'll definitely do something big if she wins it, but she will be recognized at the upcoming council meeting. I think it's gonna happen in November. So we'll keep you updated on when that's gonna happen if you want to show up and support Miss Kimberly.
In my opinion, Beth's opinion and Christina's opinion, how would they not choose her?
And we are, the children's team is also currently doing, taking collections for our costume swap, and they hope for this to be an annual thing. So they've had, families dropping off costumes that are maybe too small, or they were used the year before and somebody wants to be something else. And then Saturday, they're hosting the actual costume swap where people can come in and shop for new costumes. So we're really hoping that that'll be a cool family event.
And then I'll just add trunk or treat is happening on October 21st. It's a Saturday, on the second floor parking deck, 3 to 6. You do have to reserve a spot, for that, but I think we have quite a few trunks coming and it's a fun event. So get your costumes on Saturday and then bring them on the 21st.
We're glad to have you here.
Yes, we are.
We're just getting ready to, bring on the 2 new board members. They'll be sworn in the first, I think it's the first meeting in December. Obviously, we know who they're gonna be, so we have a little extra time to get them ramped up and, do onboarding stuff for them. So, that's going on. This year we had, several new principals at our elementary schools and our early childhood center. So far, all indications are they're doing very, very well. And then, of course, we're looking forward to what the final October seat count looks like, because the funding per pupils is the main economic driver for school districts. So we'll get news on that later this month. And then I think I told you guys last time, we did approve to put a mill on the ballot, and that'll be everything. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add? All right. 7:55, we'll adjourn.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thanks, Chelsea.